loans and wealth management services. Desert Financial Credit Union is located at 300 North Line Island, inside Walmart, and their number is 602-433-7000.
And a big thank you to Desert Financial Credit Union for sponsoring our KRIM Community Spotlight program. Good morning, RIM Country. Chris Higgins in the studio. Happy Wednesday to everyone out there. Again, hope you're enjoying this beautiful weather that we're getting. I just can't stop talking about it. If you haven't learned yet, this time of the year, my favorite time of the year, fall, autumn, cooler temperatures, it just is the perfect weather to me. So I'm going to keep talking about it, and I'm very excited about it. And just beautiful, beautiful time of year here in Payson. Well, this morning our guest in the studio is District 1 County Supervisor Steve Christensen. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, Chris. Happy to be here.
Yeah, and do you enjoy this weather
Oh my,
as
yeah,
well?
I do.
Yeah.
So my two favorite times is fall and spring.
Mm-hmm.
Fall is probably number one because you're getting relief from the heat, yet you have just beautiful days in the morning. It's cool in the morning and in the evening, but the middle of the day is so pleasant.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the colors will be coming. And,
yeah. And the mornings, the crisp mornings,
yeah.
It's invigorating to me. It's like you wake up and it just helps to wake you up. It just feels so nice compared to a summer morning where it's still a little warmer out. It just doesn't, at least for me, like wake me up the same way.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It's a really great time of year.
It is. So beautiful time of year here in Payson. A lot of great things happening. All the events we have going on. Just quickly, want to mention October 14th, well, this Saturday, we have a Gone to the Dogs event on Rumsey 1 softball field right across from the library. Great event, fundraiser for the Lions Club. So if you can, get out to that. There'll be a lot of great activities. The following weekend, our car show in Green Valley Park. That starts in the morning, goes into the afternoon, and then right after that is Payson's 50th anniversary celebration of the town being incorporated. There'll be food trucks out there, games for kids, a lot of activities, and then live music and fireworks at night. And then the 21st of this month is our Payson Aero Fair.
Right.
So a lot of activities going on. It's great time of year.
I'm going to name another activity.
Yeah.
So the Hash Knife Pony Express Monument.
Oh,
Yeah, that's at the northeast corner of the county complex over
Yes.
here on Main Street. We're going to have a dedication ceremony on October 27th. That's a Friday. And you're going to be receiving, Chris, you're going to be receiving a personal invite.
Yes.
Along with quite a number of people that we're putting them out to, but everyone is invited to come.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically right across the street from the post office.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have hash knife riders there. We're going to have a ribbon cutting and dedication ceremony, and we're still working on the monument site, and it's just going to be wonderful. It's a great history and heritage tradition that we have here.
Mm-hmm.
In Payson. It's been going on for 65 years.
65 years.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I know when we were up, and both of us had an opportunity to be in Holbrook
Right.
for the unveiling of the statue up there. And, oh man, the Pony Express, the excitement that they bring to the community when they ride into town. The children in the community.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, just how excited they get, able to, they have their coloring contests, they're able to write a letter, put a letter
Right.
In there that gets carried by the Pony Express. And it was great, I know, talking with Calvin Johnson, when, we talked about this project, and he mentioned, yeah, I have a letter that my grandmother sent me. I was 7 years old and received a letter through the Pony Express.
Yeah, and you get a special stamp on there and stuff. They're actually carrying real mail. That's real mail.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're I heard one time that they're the longest existing contractor that the post office has ever had.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So 65 years they've been contracted with the post office. Now they make one run per year, and that's usually in January or February, right in that area.
Yeah.
And so we're going to have Hash Knife Pony Express riders here. It's going to be a big deal. It's going to be great. So everybody come down.
Yeah.
October 27th at 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock. All right.
Yeah.
Get that on.
And so we're going to have the town council there, the board of supervisors. We're going to have just lots of county people, town people. And so it's going to be great.
It is, and it's a great example of a collaboration between the county and the town, getting this done. I'm excited. Some people might look at it as, well, it's just a statue, it's a little statue, but the significance and the impact that the Hash Knife Pony Express has had on our community is significant. It's pretty big.
Yeah, those kind of things, those art pieces, if you will, it brings the community together to observe a tradition. It helps people to say, look, we're a community, this is part of our identity, this is something unique about us. And so without art and without some sort of decorative element to your community, your area, it's pretty bland. And so, I mean, people throughout history, going way back, the Romans were good about that. They built magnificent things to say, look, this is a demonstration of who we are, what we believe in.
Yeah.
And so the Hash Knife Pony Express has a rich history. They start in Holbrook, they end in Scottsdale, and their overnight stay is in Payson. So it's a great tradition.
Well, that's exciting. So that is October 27th. 2 o'clock in front of the new county building right there across from the post office. Hope everyone can get out to see that. What else? I know it's always a case where you have a lot going on. There's a lot happening in the county.
There is a lot going on, but so I just returned from Washington, and if you follow my Facebook, it's Supervisor Steve Christensen. But what I did in Washington was I went back there for about 4 or 5 days, met with 9 different offices of senators and representatives to argue for continuing our PILT payments. Now, PILT is P-I-L-T.
Property in lieu tax.
It's, yes, payment
Payment.
in lieu of taxes.
Payment in lieu of taxes. Payment in
Okay,
lieu of
so what does that mean? Well, the federal government owns a lot of land throughout the United States. Most of what they own is in the West, as far as percentage-wise. Gila County is almost 60% federal land, and we are only 3.5% private land. So state land and other lands, tribal lands, all that. And so 3.5% private land means that we tax our private land on a very small portion. And so the federal government back in the 1970s era said, you can't tax us, but we'll give you a payment in lieu of that.
Okay.
So they do a formula, calculation based on how much there is and how many people live there. And Gila County receives about $4 million for the PILT payment. We also receive something that's called the SRS, which is Secure Rural Schools. Okay, and so we get about 1.6 million there, and that's for the loss of our timber industry. So anyway, we get, and so this is vital to the schools. It's vital to the county, and since we have such a small tax base, this $4 million is really helpful to it. And so I go back because this is not permanent funding.
Gotcha.
Okay, so every year it's like, well, is it on the chopping block? And so I went back this year, met with those and said, look, if you're gonna make cuts, and really, we are in the mode of making cuts right now with, if you've been watching anything going on back in Washington with Congress right now, they're just all topsy-turvy. They just ousted Kevin McCarthy, and so the whole thing is over. We have to start cutting our budget and get closer or get to a balanced budget. That means they gotta cut about $2 trillion out of the budget. Now, we don't want PILT to be cut. Nationwide, PILT is only about, now, this is nationwide.
Okay.
49 states get money from PILT.
Okay.
And I'm gonna say this only, by comparison, it's just over $500 million for PILT.
So
that's
national.
nationally.
In a federal budget, that's
That's $500 million,
yeah.
okay? And we're talking about 2,000 billion needs to be cut out of the budget. 2,000 billion.
Yeah.
And so we're talking about $500,000. So in a relative sense, let's not cut PILT. That's not going to really solve your $2,000 billion problem, which is $2 trillion. It's what it will do, though, is it'll devastate many rural counties, including our own. For us to make up $4 million in our budget we'd have to cut a bunch of stuff. Because we can't spend in a deficit way. So, like the federal government, they just go, let's just overspend and borrow more money. We can't do that.
Yeah, before the program we were talking about, some differences between, federal, state, county, municipality, governments, but that is a big difference where states, for the most part, but especially counties and cities and towns.
It's illegal.
Yes, yeah.
It's absolutely illegal to do it, so.
Yes, but then the federal government, what, 33 trillion?
In debt?
Yeah.
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 And yeah, that's a huge problem, but we're adding to the debt every year.
Yes.
We can't do that anymore.
No. I know, Congressman Crane, when he was here and spoke to a group of veterans, and then he also had a luncheon that day.
Yes.
But he, talked about a lot of the programs that were implemented during COVID, and how the spending increased to help with relief, during COVID, but that they never were removed, that that wasn't taken out of the budget, and that was something that hopefully they're looking at and evaluating, because I would imagine that's a big amount of money that was put out by the federal government for COVID relief.
Yes, there's a lot of debate on whether that was a good thing or a bad thing, or what the collateral damage was from spending so much money. So part of that spending has benefited Gila County in our budget. We've been able to acquire properties, purchase buildings, do infrastructure, improvements, renovations, and all of that. But unfortunately, because the amount of money that the federal government spent during that period of time was so large, it, I think, has been a massive contributor also to the inflation we're seeing and all the things that become a negative with high prices. So when there's more money floating around like that, then it causes inflation. And so you say, well, it becomes this vicious cycle. So then people can't afford to live anymore, so then we have to raise the minimum wage. We raise the minimum wage, then there's more money available to spend, which causes inflation. And so we need to have a really great economy where people are working and unemployment's very low. And then it seems to work best that way. But just giving money out causes inflation. So
that was good. So it sounds like it was a good trip.
It was a very good trip. Got a lot of, I met with Democrats and Republicans both, and they all were in support of PILT because they know that it's vital to their state, to their district, and to the communities in the rural, especially in the rural communities.
Yeah, especially Arizona. When you look in Arizona, how many rural communities there are.
Yeah, there's a lot of what we call the small counties. Now, the small is based on population.
Mhm.
So Gila County is part of the small county caucus. We have small, medium, and large.
Mhm.
And so the small counties consist of about 7 or 8, and they're little guys like, Apache County or Greenlee County, and the ones that just don't have much population, but they're almost all forest property.
Yeah.
They're almost completely, they have a very hard time. So Gila County has a budget where about 2/3 of our spending comes from outside sources. So only 1/3 of the money we get for spending in our budget is from taxation on property. Okay? So the rest, the 2/3, and think about that. Think about if you had a household where 1/3 of your income was from your job, and then you had to make up the other 2/3 in some other way. By asking friends to give you money or asking relatives to give you money. And so that's kind of where Gila County is. We have to ask our federal government, and we have to, and so we call them grants and all these things. We get grants from the federal government, the state government, we get grants from several sources. And that 2/3 of our budget.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot.
I know, well, no, because for the town of Payson, it's 1/20th of our revenue is from property tax.
Oh my.
So 1/20th, yeah.
Yeah.
700,000 and a $15 million, revenue.
Right.
700,000 of that is from property tax, so yeah, 1/20th.
Have you reached your property tax limit on that?
No.
No. So you have the ability to actually charge more, and I hope you don't.
Yeah, we do. That hasn't been, increased for many, many years, but what we receive in property tax is on a $1,400 property tax bill,
Yes.
the town of Payson gets $50.
Right, and so the
So-
county had a rate of 4.19. It's been that way for about 12 years, no increase, no need to increase, and no talk of increasing. Okay, we're just we're not interested in doing that. But because valuations have gone up from the assessor's office, we actually are receiving some more money because your home is valued now a little bit higher every year, every year, every year.
Yeah.
And we're building. So the more building that occurs, the more taxation we get as a revenue. And so we're able to hold the line there and hold that in there.
Yeah, the increase, because they're mandated, and I'm sure the county the same way by the state on how much it can be increased. The maximum increase that the town of Payson could do would only result in about $200,000 a year extra revenue, and the increase to a resident would be, very small. It wouldn't be much at all. That's the most that, we could do just, with an increase. There's other ways with, and it's something that's being looked at and discussed, general obligation bond that goes to the vote of the residents that would increase property taxes, but then would be spent on, different projects. But as far as the increase, yeah, we voted, the council in the last budget not to increase property tax because the significance or what it meant to the town wasn't that much, the 200,000 increased revenue. But yeah, our tax rate is 0.003. So that's the percentage that, Payson taxes. And that it's decreased for, I think, 15 years. Every year it decreases the amount. But as you said, property values over the years, they've gone up. But then in 2008, significantly decreased. So the amount collected, obviously,
It fluctuates.
Yeah, and then it doesn't happen right away because that assessed value
There's a delay.
catches up. There's a delay, yeah. So, it's very interesting, but in comparison to other communities, it's very, very low. Yeah.
So there's, sometimes people don't quite understand all the different ways they are taxed. And and it's a bummer to get taxed, I get that. And so if I could eliminate them, I would, but we can't operate without them. And so the public says, look, we want roads and we want services and we want this stuff. And the federal government comes in and says, you're mandated to take care of this and take care of that and operate this for us. And so taxation's part of a way of life, or it's a reality. Death and taxes, you know the saying. So, but you get taxed, so if you live in Gila County and own private property, you're gonna get taxed from the county. If you live in the town of Payson, you'll have additional taxes there because the town of Payson has another property tax that's on top of that. If you live within a district, like say a school district, the Payson Unified School District, you have an additional tax there. This is all part of your property taxes. If you live in a fire district, like say you live up in Pine and Strawberry and you live within that fire district, you're gonna get taxed on your property for the fire district. Okay, and all that money is collected by the county, but all that is not put into the county coffers. It's collected, it goes to the state, then it comes back, and then there's a distribution. So the county becomes the fiduciary distributor of all of these various districts, you know, and there's even more than that. There's a library district, there's a college district, there's all of those things are taxable. And so those kind of things is why you say, well, no, I pay a lot more than 4% on my taxes. Well, you do, because of all these other agencies that are not under my control whatsoever. There's a separate district that is formed for the function of operating that legal entity, that form of government, like a school district, library, sewer district. I mean, it just goes on and on. So,
and all those organizations, though, they provide those services. So they provide the services for the community, and that's one of the ways they get funded. Then there's other funding sources that usually come into play. But
well, and it's for the good of the society. So you say, well, fire district, I don't want to pay it. I don't want to do it. Nobody pays it, whatever, but we still want to have fire protection. So then it's a pay-per-use, okay? So your house catches on fire and they show up and they go, great, here's your bill. $100,000 because we have no other source of income. We have to operate this like a business. And so for the greater good, everyone just kind of chips into it. And that's how it works until it gets to a point where you say, well, I pay this in property taxes, then I got to go out and pay sales tax, and it just starts getting to the point where you say, look at all the taxes I pay, and it is true. We started this nation with almost just no taxation whatsoever. The whole Tea Party thing was based on throwing the tea into the harbor because they were going to get taxed on it without representation, and you know, that's how we formed our government. But the first tax, I think, that the federal government instituted, and it was early on, and it was to pay for the Revolutionary War, was the alcohol tax. What did they call that? It was the whiskey tax or something like that. The Whiskey Stamp Act or something like that. And so, and there was a huge outcry on that. How dare you tax our whiskey? And it's just been going ever since to pay for this war or that problem or whatever.
Yeah, well, and it comes down to, like you said, the services. So I think early on, you know, during you know, the 1700s, 1800s, people were much more self-sufficient. So they did things on their own. They didn't rely on government services to survive, to live. And so, yes, of course, you're
very
not going
independent.
you're not going to have taxes for roads when you're talking about dirt trails.
Well, and nobody would want to go back to that.
No,
they don't want to pay taxes, but they want all the services. So you can't have both.
No.
And there's a lot of services that are mandated.
Yes.
To the governments and the counties to provide. And so we have to provide a school system. We can't just opt out. And so we're forced into that, and it's a part of society, and it's there are other places in the world where you will get taxed significantly more than here.
Yeah, Europe, go anywhere in Europe. I remember, you know, when I was stationed over there, and gas prices, it was the same for 1 liter of gas in Europe that it was for a gallon of gas in the US, and mainly because of the taxes, that was on the gas.
Right, and people, they get what's called free healthcare.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's not free.
No.
They pay a significant amount of their income for all the social services. And many of them are very happy with that. You talk to someone from Sweden, they're happy as a clam. They get everything they need to live the life that they live, and they don't care about the freedom to have their money to spend it their own way or whatever. It's just like, it's the system they live within, and they're very happy about it. But Americans, we've always fought against that. We want to keep our money, we want to spend it on what we want to spend it on. So taxes are always something, and I'm pledged to everyone listening, I'm not interested in increasing them. I'd love to decrease them, but that's not in the cards either. And like you were saying, the amount that we would have to decrease to make any significant change in property taxes for the people in Gila County would devastate the county. It would affect your taxes about $100 or $200 annually per individual home, but it would mean millions and millions and millions of dollars at the county level. So we're looking at a lot of growth. It's going to happen probably down in Tonto Basin. That'll be an improvement to our budget. So I don't see us raising taxes anytime in the even distant future. You never can tell though. Be careful of who you elect into these offices and what they promise you.
Yeah, and that's what, I found, no one knows, no one can predict the future and what's going to happen. Like you said, the bottom line is there are services that the town, the county, the state provide, and they have to continue to provide those services. So, like federal government, so if we were to lose that PILT money, and that the town was looking at that as well with, the state taking away grocery tax money or short-term rental money or, other funds where, communities, municipalities were faced with the possibility of losing millions of dollars in revenue. I think for us it was $2 million. $2 million out of our revenue. Where do you make that up?
Yes, where do you make that up and still provide what everybody wants? They want the parks, they want the lake, they want the streets, they want police service.
Yeah.
And you're struggling with that. I mean, so does Gila County.
Yeah.
Struggles with employment, and no matter how much you continue to raise your wages, which is a big impact, just raising them a little bit over the whole spectrum is a big deal, and you're still not competitive. You're still not keeping up with the price increases that are occurring in our area.
Yep. And facilities, those have to be kept up, upgraded. Facilities that are similar to other communities because, like you said, it's a very competitive market right now for law enforcement. So if other organizations, they can not only offer the higher pay, but wow, look at the nicer vehicles, nicer facility, equipment, there's more training opportunities, all of it.
Right. Well, we want to keep people here.
Yeah.
We want people to move to Gila County, in northern Gila County, Payson, and it is a struggle. It is something that we deal with, and it is a struggle. So if you have any suggestions, I'm open for them.
Yeah, that's what, I always, you like to see, I know you're the same way, where, okay, you don't like this or you don't like that, then what's your solution?
Well, and we're running a tight and trim budget at the county level. Waste is something I will not tolerate, and so we're always looking for ways to retain the money that we have so that it can move to our employees to improve the lives of those that want to live here and buy a home.
Yeah, efficiency, efficiency is a big part of, cutting that waste. And sometimes, there are quite a few, examples I've seen over the years where it requires an investment. It requires an investment on the front end where you have to pay a little bit more or make a change, make an investment, but in the long run, you're saving money.
Exactly, and so we're looking at an improvement for the sheriff's department, either remodel, relocate, whatever, add on, who knows. And so we're going to be reviewing the various options there with that very thing in mind. We make an investment today for today's dollars that will see us into the future 50 or 60 years.
And that's something, it maybe on the next program, that's something that we can talk about. What you've seen as far as changes or what you're doing, and you see, the supervisors, you guys doing collectively to build for the future of Gila County instead of just building for today and the present.
Correct.
But thinking, and I've seen some examples of that. The bridge is a great example. The county buying property, acquiring buildings. There definitely is, you can tell, a commitment, or you as a group are being intentional about building for the future of Gila County.
Very, and if I could say that if we all basically agree on one thing, or the three of us, I mean, and that is that vision for tomorrow, and not just put a Band-Aid on it today because it might cost something to do it better.
Yeah,
So.
and that's what we've seen recently in talking with individuals that have been part of the past councils in Payson. It has been a case where projects were just done, facilities were built just for the present, and not really looking at the future, looking at growth or expansion or the impact it would have, but just doing the minimum, and mainly because of cost. And that's really what it came down to, funding, and trying to do things in the most affordable way, because you want to be responsible to residents, to the people in the community. But it does come around to, I think, bite you, and it becomes now more expensive when you have to address it and look at that new facility, or we need to do this now, and it costs more.
Right. Well, I learned early on that if you want something nice and to have it last, you have to pay the money for it. So, just an example of you buy a nice piece of furniture that's going to last you the rest of your life, or you can go and get a cheap piece of furniture and replace it 10 times and still have not a good quality piece of furniture. And so there's the short-term quick fix gratification, or there's the pay for it and get quality that'll last. Yeah.
Well, hey, thank you so much, Steve, for coming
very
on.
welcome.
Sorry if there were other things that, again...
I could talk for hours.
But your Facebook page, again, if you want to see what Steve is doing, what's happening, it's great to follow him on his Facebook page, and that is...
Supervisor Steve Christensen.
There we go.
Yep.
So thank you everyone for listening and watching this morning. Thank you to Desert Financial Credit Union for sponsoring our Community Spotlight program. Time to get back to the music with some Al Stewart, Donald Fagen, Ryan Adams, and more. But first, let's get a quick update from the National Weather Service.
I like to count.
All right, see you later, guys.